of problems with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the movie, but I absolutely love the end credit scene. Well, the mid-credit scene. The end credit scene is just a Bruce Campbell Evil Dead joke, which I don't really think landed. But anyway, this mid-credit scene, whew, love it. But not a lot of people are talking about it. Is it because they don't know who Clea is? Or is it because maybe there isn't a lot of interest in another female version of a popular male character, which the MCU is doing an awful lot of these days. But there's an awful lot for us to discuss. And as I said, I'm excited because to me, this is a great development in so many ways. All right, so as we've discussed many times, it's crucial for a franchise film or streaming show to have a good end credit scene. I mean, look at the boost that Moon Knight just got out of its end credit scene. It saved the show. It got it trending for the first time for like 24 hours. Top 10. That was incredible. Because it's what gets fans excited for what comes next. The whole point of these franchises today is that they are expansive, that, it's part of a web. And so you were excited for the next piece of the puzzle. Now, for anyone, again, who knows who Clea is, Doctor Strange 2 has a great end credit scene. But I'm hearing from a lot of you that in your screenings and your showings, the crowd does not seem to know who Clea is. And I would, again, as I said, the lack of conversation about this end credit scene also seems to imply that. So you don't understand what a big deal it is for her to finally show up in the MCU and what this means for Doctor Strange's films going forward. Also, some moviegoers might not even realize that's Charlize Theron, as the scene happens so quickly, like the rest of the movie. This thing's like on fast forward, which was one of my problems with it. But also, Theron is sporting a very different look. Some of you have pointed out she looks an awful lot like Lady Gaga. But anyway, I think Theron looks not just stunning. She looks stunning. I think she looks absolutely gorgeous. But she looks comics accurate as Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. And I think that's very exciting. So let's talk about Theron's casting, who Clea is, what this means for the MCU going forward, and what's going on with Doctor Strange's third eye. So, getting Charlize Theron is a major win for the MCU. Who is going to get her first, the MCU or or DC, or whatever they're calling it these days? You can be in both, but I think it's harder when you're a major player in one over the other. The Oscar winner has a reputation when it comes to franchises, though, of majorly plussing them. So that's exciting. And we also know she's very good at action and that she takes this kind of genre work very seriously. She's going to do all the hand jive movements, too. It's going to be great. She's also a true peer to Benedict Cumberbatch, not just regarding their standing in the industry and their talent, but they're basically the same age at a time when Marvel and all movie franchises are trying to cast younger to make sure that their action stars are viable for as long as possible. Remember how we all wanted Charlize Theron to be Captain Marvel, but then they went with Brie Larson instead? So I'm so happy to see that she got into the MCU after all. Theron is even talked about Warner Brothers reaching out to her back in the day to star in Wonder Woman when they were making the 2017 movie, only for her to find out they wanted her for Wonder Woman's mother, not for Wonder Woman herself. So I think Theron's casting is not just great for the MCU, but for women in Hollywood overall. And when it comes to these big blockbuster movies, actresses have done very well in first TV and then cable and now streaming. Wonderful roles for them. Nicole Kidman has said it saved her career. Heck, TV saved Lucille Ball's career back in the day. But now, as blockbuster films take over the multiplex and other smaller movies are squeezed out, would that mean there would be no place for older actresses? That would be horrible. Although Nicole Kidman sure gets a lot of work. But anyway, that would be really, really unfortunate development. So I'm so glad to see Charlize Theron here, especially after they just kicked her out of Mad Max to go with the younger version with Anya Taylor-Joy. And I love Anya Taylor-Joy, but that was really uncool. Charlize Theron was even upset about it. All right, so who is Clea? Well, in the comics, this is great. Clea is basically a member. Speaking of Anya Taylor-Joy, there are a lot of similarities to magic to some degree. All right, so anyway, Clea is basically a member of the Dark Dimension's royal family. We see the Dark Dimension in this very end credit scene when Clea opens up that portal. literally cutting it in thin air. I thought that was cool. Her mother, Umar, constantly fighting with her uncle, Dormammu, for control of that realm. Umar, by the way, has sometimes had a romance with Doctor Strange villain, Mordo. Oh, it's all coming together. This was a fun movie, but one of the things that I liked, so I think many of us liked about No Way Home is that we went back to being a Spider-Man, movie instead of, having to, you don't want everything to be an Avengers movie, right? So, this could have worked, I think, if it had been done a little bit better, looping in Scarlet Witch, but to go back to like a proper Doctor Strange movie for the third installment, I think would be really cool. Clea, by the way, has on occasion transformed into a Dormammu-type being, aka a Faltine, a being of pure magic energy, rather than her regular humanoid appearance. Now, of course, we all remember Dormammu from the first Doctor Strange movie. Dormammu, I have come to bargain. Well, in the comics, Clea witnesses Doctor Strange when he was in the Dark Dimension. She witnesses him from afar and is impressed with his courage and mystical abilities and introduces herself. So it's very likely that MCU Clea witnessed or has heard of the fateful fight in the first film with her uncle Dormammu. Now, also in the comics, Clea is a student of Doctor Strange's, and he often needs to save her, that damsel in distress element to comics, particularly back in the day. But clearly, this Clea is, thank goodness, again, more of a peer. In the comics, Clea shares all of Doctor Strange's mystical abilities, but she can also throw magic bolts, use energy shields, astral projection, thought casting, which is basically telepathic communication, talking inside your head, teleportation, levitation without a cloak. Basically, think of her as a purple, mystical Scarlet Witch, meaning she can basically do anything the writers want her to. In the comics, no other sorcerer, witch, or warlock can defeat her. So where the heck was she during this movie? All right, anyway, perhaps what Clea is known for best, though, is marrying Doctor Strange, being the wife of Doctor Strange, Clea Strange, in a dark dimension ceremony. Apparently they didn't think it's funny, in the comic they were like, oh, our marriage wouldn't be legal on Earth because you're not a human. So they had a dark dimension ceremony. But anyway, Clea also at the same time became the ruler of the dark dimension. So she and Strange spent a lot of time apart because it's tough leading the dark dimension. And eventually she and Strange separated because she was too busy at work. It's a story for the ages. Fast forward to today, though, and with the recent Death of Doctor Strange comic, who's the new Sorcerer Supreme? You guessed it, Clea. All right, so what does this mean for the MCU? I think you can kind of already see where this is heading. Well, obviously, our next Doctor Strange adventure will take place in the Dark Dimension, with Clea telling him he's created an incursion, where one multiverse we learned during this movie, or one universe in the multiverse, threatens to destroy another. So they need to fix it. You broke it? You fix it. Hopefully you don't have to buy it. Thematically, though, this gives us another male-female pairing, which we, of course, first saw with Ant-Man and the Wasp, then Tony and Pepper, really coming to head in Endgame, and most recently with Moon Knight, soon to be followed very quickly by Thor with Mighty Thor, Shuri becoming Black Panther, Ironheart taking over for Iron Man, and now Doctor Strange. Does this offer more representation for women in the MCU, or does it dilute these corners of the MCU? As I said, would it be better for female characters to have their own identities rather than being variations of popular male characters? This is something Marvel Comics has struggled with. It's a tough question. And is it too much change all at once? I just told you all this is happening at the same time. Will Doctor Strange 3 end with Clea becoming Sorcerer Supreme? And also, how busy is Kevin Feige's dance card? When's this going to happen? What will the timing of that be like with all these other properties? And how will fans feel about it? You gotta be careful because we want these female characters to be popular. And as for that third eye, this is something distinct to the MCU as it hasn't really shown up in the comics. There's, of course, the Eye of Agamotto, but it wasn't showing up on his head. And as you saw in this very movie, Doctor Strange already can cast spells to see mystical things, like in the first fight when at first he can't see that squid monster. So what's this third eye doing? By the way, ironically, when he married Clea in the comics, he only had one eye. So it's hilarious. He's going all over the place with his eyes. The movie doesn't even explain what's going on with the third eye, with many having to guess that this third eye is a result of using the Darkhold, although the People are calling it the Sinister Strange, but we don't know for sure that's what version it is. But while the Strange who was killed on Titan had black fingers from reading the Darkhold, this Sinister Strange who was guarding the Darkhold did not have black fingers. And Doctor Strange, our Doctor Strange, doesn't have black fingers, but he does have this third eye. So maybe it comes from the Darkhold, maybe it doesn't. And I mean, why isn't Doctor Strange concerned about it? If it came from the Darkhold, especially after everything he just saw Wanda go through and the threat she became, you'd think he'd be talking to Wong about getting that taken care of, right? I mean, it's not a deal breaker for Clea, but of course she comes from the dark dimension, so maybe it's a cool look. But she's not worried about it either. So I guess we'll have to wait for the next time we see the Stranges. That's funny. I kind of like that, but I know some of you might be throwing up in your mouth, but I like it to have this explained. I think we'd feel a lot better about the third eye overall, though, if the VFX were done better, because that looks ridiculous. One of you said it looked like a Snapchat or TikTok filter, and I'm inclined to agree with you. All right, so Clea fans. Also, I don't think anybody wants the third eye. I don't think anyone looks at that and is like, that's awesome. I think they're like, no, I don't like that. So Clea fans, how do you feel about her finally joining the MCU? And for those of you not familiar with the character, how do you feel now that I've filled you in? And what do you think about Charlize Theron, all of you? What do you think about Charlize Theron being cast in the role? What do you think of the role she finally ended up with in the MCU? I think this is good. I think she would have been a better Captain Marvel, but that's taken. Maybe a variant Captain Marvel? Haha, maybe. Oh, darn it. But I think this is pretty darn good. All right, I'm just worried about fan reaction because I'm surprised at how muted it's been. Hopefully it's just because people don't know who Clea is. All right, so what do you think? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today for plenty more Doctor Strange spoiler videos coming up. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.